Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Math with Dr. War. In today's video, I'm going to be tackling the standard Q2B, in which the GED exam wants students to perform computations and write numerical expressions with squares and square roots of positive rational numbers. This is a very, I would say, kind of a large standard. So I'm going to break it down into digestible pieces. And I'm going to start with squaring a number. Then I'm going to move on to taking the square root. So let's begin. Now, when I say squaring a number, I just mean that you're going to multiply the number by itself. So here I have 2 to the second power. The 2 is your base. And the exponent 2 here is telling you that your base is going to multiply itself 2 times. And 2 times 2 is 4. I have 6 squared, which means 6 multiplied by 6, which gives you 36. Always remember, squaring is a multiplication and not an addition, because sometimes students think you're adding. And for those students who think that, I always say write it out. So 6 squared means 6 multiplied by 6, which gives you 36. You can also get decimals. So 2.5 squared means that 2.5 is going to multiply itself. Let me put this in parentheses because that dot there is kind of driving me a little bit crazy. 2.5 times 2.5. And again, you're going to multiply this because you have to be able to multiply your decimals without a calculator. In this standard Q2B, you cannot use a calculator. So if we multiply this manually, 5 times 5 is 25, carry the 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. I'm going to put my 0. 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. When I add this, I get 5, 2, 6. How many decimal places do I have? 1, 2. So I'm going to move my decimal point 1, 2 places, and that's how they got 6.25. Here's the difference between the task test and the GED test. On the task test, this could have appeared in the non-calculator and also the calculator section. You could have gotten it correct in both places. Now, in the GED test, this specific standard is only on the non-calculator. So you have to be able to square numbers without a calculator. Students should memorize their perfect squares all the way to 12. But I included 13, 15 squared, and 20 squared because you never know. And when I teach this in my class, I always tell students, these are the favorites. So we have our favorites here. So let's begin. So 1 squared means 1 times 1, which would be 1. We did 2 squared, that's 4. 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. 4 squared, 4 times 4, which is 16. 5 squared, 5 times 5 equals to 25. So you get where I'm going with this. You should know these perfect squares by heart. 6 squared, 36. 7 squared, 49. 8 squared, 64. 9 squared, 81. 10 squared, 100. 11 squared, 121. 12 squared, 144. Now, again, the GED says students must memorize the first 12, but I also threw in 13 squared. 13 times 13 is 169. I also threw in 15 squares. 15 squared is 225. And finally, 20 squared is 400. So I would suggest that if you have not memorized your perfect squares, these are the ones you need to put to memory. Now, another thing on the GED test is when they ask you to square negative numbers. This is where you have to be careful. If I gave you -4 all squared. What this means is that negative 4 is going to multiply itself 2 times. Now, we all know that when you're multiplying and your signs are the same, your answer will be positive. I'm just putting the plus sign to indicate it. Will be positive, and then 4 times 4 is 16. Now, notice my negative 4 is in parentheses. Now, suppose I ditch the parentheses. Suppose I write negative 4 raised to the second power. The square is only with the 4, not the negative. So you need to keep the negative, and then they're saying you need to square 4, which means 4 times 4. The negative that's in front here is going to join with the first 4. So you're multiplying a negative with a positive. When the signs are different, your answer is negative, and 4 times 4 is 16. There is a difference with parentheses, and there is a difference when there is no parentheses. When you have parentheses, it means everyone that's inside has to be multiplied by itself. So when you see negative 4 squared in parentheses, you got to take everything. Negative 4 times negative 4, which gives you positive 16. If there are no parentheses, none whatsoever, you are only squaring the number and you need to take the negative sign with you, which means your answer will be negative. Let's try this again. Suppose you have negative 6 all squared. The square is only with the 6, so you need to keep that negative. And who are you squaring? Let's put it in red. You are only squaring the 6. So it's going to be 6 times 6. So your answer, negative 36. Suppose I wrote it in parentheses, negative 6 all squared. Now, because there's parentheses, it means that negative 6, everything that's inside there, everything is going to multiply itself twice. So it's going to be negative 6 multiplying by negative 6. We all know 2 negatives gives you a positive, and 6 times 6 is 36. So be very careful when they ask you to square negatives. Notice what happens when you have parentheses and when you do not have any parentheses when you're squaring. I hope you found this lesson helpful. Good luck in your GED examination. And as always, please subscribe. If you like the content, hit the like button. If you have any questions or any comments, drop them down below and I'll get right back to you. Have a great day.